afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Fountain Court exhibition space at New South Wales Parliament. And welcome to the opening of the Chinese Australian Artists Exhibition, Too Blue to be True. 澳洲杰出华裔艺术家作品展. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that today's event is being held on the Gadigal country of Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and the waters of New South Wales. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of key people here, including our host, the New South Wales Labour leader and member for Kogarah, Chris Minns, the guest speaker, Dr. Jeff Raby, AO, and invited guests. I didn't see Professor Jocelyn Che, but she's supposed to be here. Yes, Jocelyn's there. And Professor David Goodman, who I just talked, and Professor Mabel Lee, Dr. He Yuhuai, and Ying Cao, Ben Wang, Donna Wang, and also the poet Ying Xia, and also Rod Chanovelt and Jenny Gu, and of course the curator of the exhibition, Dr. Guan Wei, and all the exhibiting artists and their families and friends, and all the art supporters. My name is Jing Han. I'm the director of the Institute for Australian and Chinese Arts and Culture at Western Sydney University. It is a great honor to be the MC today. This exhibition is proudly presented by the Australian Chinese New Arts Society with the support of the Multicultural New South Wales and New South Wales Parliament. Being an academic, I couldn't resist any opportunity for a bit of research. So I would like to give a little bit detailed introduction of our host, Chris Minns. Chris was born and grew up in the St. George area. His mum was a lawyer and his dad, school principal. He has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of New England and a Master of Public Policy from Princeton University. Prior to entering New South Wales Parliament, Chris worked for a youth mental health charity and also as a firefighter and advisor in the New South Wales government. He was the Assistant Secretary of New South Wales Labour and served as the Deputy Mayor of Hurstville. In 2015, Chris was elected as the member for Kogarah and has served as the Shadow Minister for Water and Shadow Minister for Transport. In June 2021, Chris was elected the leader of New South Wales Labour. Chris and his wife, Anna, are raising their 3 boys, Joe, Nick, and George. That's Chris in a nutshell. Please welcome the New South Wales Labour leader and a member for Kogarah, Chris Minns, to give the opening speech.
Well, thank you so much for that generous introduction, and to be with so many wonderful art lovers in the New South Wales Parliament House. It's a really important institution, and it's wonderful to see it populated with so many works of beautiful art generated right here in New South Wales. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I'd also like to acknowledge Professor Jing Yan, Professor Feng Ji, Jenny Gu, a good friend of mine from the local area, Guan Wei, Yin Cao, another friend from the Art Gallery of New South Wales and a stunning curator at just across the domain over there, Dr. Jeff Raby, who's going to speak to us a little later, and Shen Jiao Wei, who's an artist and a guest speaker. I don't have enormous amounts of things to say. Oh, and Ben Wang, Councillor Ben Wang from Georges River Council. I don't have a lot to say other than welcome to the People's Parliament. This is the oldest democratic institution in Australia. And my friend Shikep Musulmani from the New South Wales Upper House, who's also here, is a member of that august chamber behind us. And it has been populated by art and artists since its opening days. We've got wonderful works in these chambers by Brett Whiteley, by Tom Roberts, wonderful portraiture of the nation's constitutional leaders like Parkes and early prime ministers like Watson and Barton. Have populated these walls by wonderful artists, and to see that tradition live on, particularly with a note and a nod and a reflection for Chinese Australian art, reflecting, I think, the waves of migration, positive migration to this country over the last half century, is particularly fitting and particularly apt, because art that's hung and appreciated in the New South Wales Parliament, I think, is a reflection of the fact that this society appreciates art. It recognises artists and it values their contribution to our community. My sense is that future generations will know and understand what it was like to live, raise a family, work and experience life in the year 2022, not by reading mountains of Hansards or parliamentary debates put in books and getting dust on bookshelves, notwithstanding the wonderful speeches Shaquette and I from time to time give. They'll understand what life was like in Sydney, Australia in 100 years' time by reflecting on the art that's produced. And it's for that reason that we need to foster and appreciate art and artists, because what they produce is a reflection of what we as a society go through. And with that, I'm happy to pass on to the guest speakers today, and welcome to the People's House, the New South Wales Parliament. After all, it is your institution, and it's wonderful to see such wonderful art populate its walls.
Thank you so much, Chris, for such a good speech and also well said, and particularly for your support to art and Australian Chinese communities. Now let me introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Jeff Raby. Dr. Raby is a distinguished economist and diplomat. He was Australia's ambassador to China from 2007 to 2011, and Australian ambassador to APAC from 2003 to 2005, and ambassador to the World Trade Organization from 1998 to 2001. He was the chairman of the Visa Asia at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and is the CEO of the consulting firm Jeff Raby and Associates. Dr. Raby was awarded the Order of Australia in 2019 in recognition of his distinguished services to Australian-China relations and multilateral trade policy development. His latest book, China's Grand Strategy and Australia's Future in the New Global Order, was published by the Melbourne University Press. Dr. Raby is also a big collector of Chinese contemporary art, and he has given his 35-year collection of close to 200 artworks to the La Trobe University. Dr. Raby's collection exhibition in our time is currently showing at the Bendigo Art Gallery till February 2023, so you have a chance to have a look. Please welcome Dr. Jeff Raby, AO, to give the speech.
Thank you so much, Han Jing. I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal people of the Yidira tribe, and the lands on which we are gathered here today, and to recognise leaders past, present and emerging. It's great to have the leader of the Labor Party, Chris Minns, MP, here today to open the exhibition. It's that sort of support that we look to our politicians for these particular community events, and particularly in a time that's so trying in terms of Australia-China relations and for Chinese in our community. And so Chris being here is a very important gesture and recognition of the contribution of our Chinese community in Australia, and it will be hugely welcomed by all the people here. I'd also like to recognise my old colleague and friend, Professor Justin Shea, AM, also the exhibiting artists, and all the supporters here who support art and who value art for all the sorts of good reasons that Chris outlined in his excellent introduction. Many thanks also to Jenny Gu, who chairs the Chinese New Arts Society, and Jin Hang, who I'll formally recognise as the director of the Institute for Australian Chinese Arts and Culture at Western Sydney University, which I've had the great pleasure of being the chairman of the advisory board for a number of years. I'm delighted to be invited to speak at this opening, and of course my very old friend, we go back to 1986, Guan Wei, has curated this wonderful show. I'm delighted to see the great and valuable contributions of Chinese Australian artists to the rich and diverse contemporary art scene in Australia. The 24 artists exhibiting here are all leading artists in various forms of art. Some are internationally renowned, such as Guan Wei and Shen Jiawei, behind me. And I've known Shen Jiawei as well for a very long time. Other artists who I don't know personally, but are exhibiting here, are also highly successful and have won a range of awards in Australia, China, and around the world. For example, Richard Chow is a world-renowned watercolourist. Justin Tian is an award-winning sculptor, and his peak, created for the Lunar New Year, was seen and loved by many Sydney-siders. The young artist, Liu Da-Peng, who's just held a solo show at the Institute for Australian and Chinese Arts and Culture at Western Sydney, has already been a 3-time Archibald finalist, and his portrait of Tao Yin is hanging over there, and it's a beautiful piece that shows the influence of both Chinese traditional painting and being in Australia. Fan Dongguang, who earned a doctorate in creative art from Wollongong University, has achieved remarkable successes as a painter, calligrapher, sculptor and photographer, and was a finalist of the Sulman and Wins prizes. Wong Lan, who I also know, has been a devoted artist for the last 3 decades since migrating to Australia, and is very popular in the art community of Bandina, where Shen Jiawei also lives. The list of achievements by these artists doesn't end here. Art, as we know, plays a critical role in nation building. Australia, being a country of multiculturalism, has benefited greatly from a diverse range of cultural and art influences brought to Australia by our migrants. Chinese Australian artists since the late 1980s and early 90s have made a great contribution to today's Australian art by bringing Chinese artistic traditions and aesthetics to here and integrating them into their expressions of the Australian environment and our stories. My own introduction to Chinese artists goes back to the 1980s in Beijing, when Jocelyn Che and I were working as diplomats in the Australian Embassy. I brought my first, I should say, and so was Kevin Rudd, but he wasn't collecting art in those days, he was doing something else. I brought my first work in 1986 and have been collecting now for nearly 4 decades. In 2019, I donated my collection, as Han Jing said, of some 180 plus works to my old university, La Trobe. Just last week, the first public exhibition, as Han Jing mentioned, of my Chinese art collection was opened in the Bendigo Art Gallery. The exhibition in our time will remain up until February next year, so please go and visit. Bendigo's a lovely town, and the collection I think is worth seeing. That opening was attended by so many people. It indicates that there really is a great interest and appreciation of Chinese art in Australia. Again, it's my great honour to speak here at the opening of this amazing exhibition. Congratulations to the 24 artists, the curator, Guan Wei, and the Australia-China New Art Society. I wish the exhibition every success.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And we know Jeff is in high demand, so we really appreciate and are so grateful that Jeff made time for us. And I can't thank you enough for Jeff's always ongoing strong support to Australian Chinese artists. Now I would like to invite 2 iconic artists, Shen Jiawei and Guan Wei, to come for a dialogue. And I have prepared some tough questions. Hopefully they will be able to answer. Okay, this is my first question. Both of you are highly successful and well-established artists in Australia. You came to Australia in the late 1980s and early 1990s, respectively. But you came under rather different circumstances and had very different experiences in the early periods. Guan Wei, while in Beijing, got to know a bunch of foreigners, Lao Wan, including Australian diplomats Nicholas Jones and Jeff Ray. So Guan Wei got an invitation and came all the way to Tasmania. That's where he started, as an artist in residence at the University of Tasmania. And he became straight away a full-time artist. Shen Jianwei, on the other hand, was a well-known artist already in China, but he decided to give it all up and came to Australia to be a language student. So he had to first make his living by drawing portraits at Darling Harbour. In those years, some of you may have seen Shen Jiawei there. So as we know, our past experiences have made what we are today. Okay, now my question first to Shen Laoshi. Can you tell us how your early years of experiences influence your life and art?
我呢，在达林港，在达林哈伯画了几千张的，这个肖像 ，tourist 的肖像，这个呢，帮助我这个成为一个名副其实的肖像画家。那么这个呢，既帮助我解决了这个生存的问题，那么也在后来给我supporting 我的这个从事纯粹的非盈利的这个巨幅的历史化的这些项目。 提供了资金来源，那么因为呢，我呢，这个一直不能申请到 Australia Council 的任何的资助，所以我必须要自己来筹备，这个资金，这个问题都被我解决了，所以我也感到很自豪。
By drawing several thousands of portraits of tourists at Darling Harbour. Not only provided with me of my living, but also made me qualified portrait painter. And also that has provided resources for me later on to create my epic artworks. Because, read between lines, because I have never got the grants from Australian Council, so I have to self-fund myself. And all these years I have done so, so I'm very proud of my achievement. Now, Guan Wei, can you tell us how you adapted to the life and society of Australia when you first came?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky because when I came to Australia, I was in the art in residence in the university, in the MCA, and yeah, I don't need to make portrait, you know, in the Darling Harbour because they gave me the flight, I gave me the studio, color, little money, and that's why I can, you know, continue to create my works. And also, I'm very lucky. I got nearly 10 times the grant from the Australian Art Council, and this is very interesting because I was Jia Wei. One of the latest critics read the article, just a comparison with two persons, because they're talking Jia Wei is famous in China. One was in China, because we had 10 years gap. You know, he's the old generation.
Oh, you don't need to tell us that.
That's why I mean, you know, I was learning the art. I just looking Jia Wei like this way. Yeah, I'm very proud of looking him because he's so very good technique. And but when he came to Australia, you know, he in the outside of the system. But in the China, I was under the ground. But I came to Australia, I became in the system. You know, this is very interesting. You know, that this can be read some the doctor, the lyrics for talking. Yeah,
all the street artists we call ourselves as 盲流。
Oh,
Yeah, in China we call the 盲流
yes,
artist.
it's like migrants. Yeah.
But in Australia, yeah, we became the monstrous. This
It is
interesting.
very
yeah.
interesting what you said, and it does deserve a PhD thesis. So anyone interested, and that's the topic. That's really good. And then my next question, how would you like to be called? Chinese artist in Australia, Chinese Australian artist, or Australian artist, and why? 沈老师。
你先来。
Oh, okay.
公平。
Yeah. Okay. Because since I just first arrived to Australia, I continue to use my old way to create my works. Many Chinese elements, the background in my works, like Chinese character, acupuncture, and something they looking out is the Chinese artists. But very quickly to change my ideas and the conceptuals because I'm looking for Australian audience. That's why my work is follow the Western styles, like are interested in the East and the Westerns, firstly. Later I change to the for the interesting for the environmental things in my works. That's why when I developed my works, our title is changed. Before like Chinese artist, later like Chinese Australian Chinese, and later I represent the Australian, drawing many like international triennial biennales, and that's why they call, oh, you represent Australia is like an Australian artist. Yeah, this is my is the name changed. Okay, yeah.
Very interesting. And
我用中文了啊。
Yeah.
首先呢，我呢是出生在中国，父母都是中国人。那么我在来澳之前已经在中国生活了40年，浸透了这个中国文化。所以呢，我想呢，到死呢，我都是一个中国人。第二呢，我呢成为一个澳大利亚的公民已经有25年了，所以呢，我也认为我是一个100%的澳大利亚人。而不是加上一个定语啊，这个我认为所谓的Chinese Australian， 这个意义只有在这个人口普查的时候才有意义啊。第三点呢，我呢是一个艺术家，既不是中国艺术家，也不是澳大利亚艺术家，因为呢艺术是没有国界的，艺术家是没有祖国的，或者可以说呢，我是一个属于人类的世界的艺术家。
Okay, let me interpret it first because that's not fair to people who don't understand Chinese. So wait, what Shen Jiahui said, 3 points. First of all, he has lived in China for 40 years and his parents are full-blood Chinese. So, and he soaked up all Chinese culture before he came here. So until he died, he will be Chinese. And second point is he has been Australian citizen for 25 years. So he sees himself as a fully fledged Australian. And Chinese Australian is only reflected when census is conducted. Third point is, as an artist, he doesn't think himself is an Australian artist or Chinese Australian artist or Chinese artist, because art has no border and art belongs to the world. So he sees himself as an artist of the world. Very good answer, both of you. Okay, now you can applaud. Thank you. And my third question, what did you learn in China and take it with you to Australia as an artist?
Okay.
沈老师。
我在中国的40年里面，通过自我教育和大学进修，掌握了完善的绘画技巧和丰富的历史知识，他们呢帮助我在澳大利亚继续我的艺术家生涯。
Having lived in China for 40 years, through self-education and tertiary education, I have mastered comprehensive painting art technique and also historical knowledge. And all this I have taken it with me to continue my artistic creation career in Australia. Okay, 关老师。
我也说中文吧。
Now he gets envious. He wants to speak Chinese as well.
Because it's a little bit harder to talking. 因为这个在中国啊，我学会了一个什么呢？就学会了一个对这种社会和政治一种这个敏感。哎，你比如看到一个报纸，哎，林彪好几天没出现吧， 所以他就可能会出事儿了。这样的话呢，就是说呢，在我的艺术里边呢，就是说很敏感表现的东西，但不直着说，得藏起来说。藏起说正好符合这艺术的特点，因为你直着说就没有趣味了嘛。你这个变化的说，所以我就在这儿养就了一身的这个特征对什么事情很敏感，然后呢，转着弯的在我艺术上表现出来，这是我的一个本事，可能是。
That's very interesting what he said. He said living in China, he has learned one very particular skill, which is become very sensitive to pick up political information. For example, Lin Biao, who used to be the deputy vice president, and he disappeared from public and from newspaper, and then everyone would know something wrong, something had happened to him. So having developed that sensitivity is actually critical for artistic creation, because art is, you do not say your messages straight away, you say veiled message. So you're going round and round to tell the message. So that's the skill he has developed in China, and then he has used it very well in his own art. So art never give messages straight away. So that's very interesting. I didn't expect that. It's really interesting. My next question, can you list 2 things in Australia that have had a big impact on your artistic creation? Now we're talking about Australia now.
Okay. For me, I think firstly is environmentals. You know, I was in Beijing. You know, it's gray colors and quite dark. You know, the environmental. But since I arrived to Australia, you know, blue sky and beautiful waters, and my work has a big change. You know, the environmental gave me so strong. And secondly, I think Australian society, Australian people, and gave me also very strong influence, because Australian people is very friendly, very honestly, and very tolerant. You know, that's why I opened my eyes, looking whole of the world, and before my focus just focus on one thing, but now I'm looking many different can be in my art, in my works.
You can see he's a very idealistic artist. I'm sure there are dishonest Australians around. Anyway, that's a very good answer, 沈老师。
所以还有是强烈意思。我在来澳的这个第6年，就是1995年的时候，赢得了 Mary McGillop Art Award，是第1名，所以呢，受到罗马教皇的接见和授予金牌。但是呢，当时所有主流的英文媒体都在不得不做出的评论里面给了我负面的批评，甚至呢，由于这个 John McDonald 的这个给我的这个很差的评价呢，导致了悉尼晨风报在第1版就没有报道教皇接见我的新闻，别的报纸都放在头版。那么我当时很心平气和啊，得了奖还是很开心的，所以呢我就想为什么呢？最后我就明白了，我想呢，因为我当时的得奖的作品啊，我故意的模仿了澳大利亚画家在19世纪，这个维多利亚时代的那种风格，被误解了，被误会了。那么当然我也花了1年时间，很认真的去学习补课这个后现代主义的这些理论。那么2年以后呢，我的这个阿基鲍的画呢，就得了很高的评价就是 runner up 就第2。那么这个还是这个 John McDonald 呢，第1个就看清楚了我的当代意识，所以在他的评论里给了我非常高的评价，而且从此以后他一直是我的知音。我呢在澳大利亚的第2位知音呢是4A 画廊的创始人 Melissa Chu。他呢，在得知我在文革时代的成名作应邀在那个纽约的 Guggenheim Museum 展出以后呢，就邀请我在4A 画廊举办了回顾展。开幕以后有5份主流的英文大报呢，都有长篇的review 评论，就不再有嘲讽了。
6 years after I arrived in Australia in 1995, I won the St. Mary Calalopa Award and actually was in the audience of a Pope and received a medal from the Pope. However, there were a lot of negative or critical review of my getting award. And John McDonnell, the art critic, his very negative review actually made Sydney Morning Herald refuse to publish the news of me receiving the medal from Pope as a front page news. So I sat down and did some reflection. And I think I realized that because I deliberately imitate the 19th century Victorian style to do the painting, and which misled art critic. So in 2 years, and then I soaked up lots of theory, postmodernist theory about the art. And then 2 years later, I actually became runner-up. My painter got the runner-up of Archibald Prize. And this time, John McDonnell actually was the first one who recognized my achievement, and he praised me very highly. And that obviously led to lots of great news stories in the mainstream media. And John McDonnell actually became a great friend of mine who knew my work really well. The other person who has known my work very well is Melissa True, the founder of the A4 Gallery. And when she saw my exhibition at Guggenheim Museum, she decided to do a retro exhibition of my show at A4 Gallery, which was a great success and won articles, great reviews from 5 mainstream English newspapers. And ever since, I have not received any sarcastic review of my artwork. Very good, it's really good. It's enlightening to hear your answers. And now my next important question is to Shen Laoshi first. Shen Laoshi, you have been a great portrait artist and you have done many brilliant portraits of historical figures as well. Is that because you love portrait painting and history so much that you devote yourself to the art, to that particular art form, or is it because you just couldn't do other art form?
我的回答呢是这个艺术家呢不是杂技演员，他不能表现很多不同的这个节目啊。绝大多数的艺术家呢要用毕生的精力了来打磨他的使用的技巧。除非呢，他是像毕卡索那样的天才，我呢是属于这个极大多数的之一，除去那个真心喜欢和享受其中的乐趣之外呢，我也冷静地估计了，老天爷赐给我的有限的才华，正好是捕捉人脸那种敏感，与此同时呢，因为我早年的不顺，使我失去了接受这个完整艺术教育的机会，所以呢，我的这个表达手段是很有限的，这也只能是我只能做到一花独放。
That's a very, very good answer. To me, artist is not acrobatic performer. And I think most artists have to devote their life to get refined in one particular art form. Except unless you are a genius like a Picasso. I'm just one of those most artists. So through my early childhood misfortunes, I didn't get comprehensive, art education. And also, I have quickly realized that I have a talent which is to capture facial expressions so well. And so I decided this is my field this is the art form that I will devote myself. So I also recognize that I have limitations. And so I decide that I think thriving in one thing only would be the way that I would go. So very humble answer, and it's really nice. Okay, Guan Laoshi, you've been a multimedia artist, including painting, sculpture, installation, and lately video. Apart from your famous transformation of self-portrait, you seldom paint portraits. Is that because you know that you just couldn't beat Shen Jiawei?
Of course. Yeah, he is very well known and very good technique. Yeah, 我望尘莫及，望尘莫及。And yeah, for the different artists has different, you know, the wheels. You know, like Jia Wei, just interesting for the portrait, for the face, interesting face. But for myself, I like do many different things. You know, try to like video and sculpture and installation. And sometimes I just feel, you know, the 2D's work that can be you know, to create your feelings on this. I need more space, like I did in the power in the MCA, I did big murals. You know, it's a huge. You know, also in the Powerhouse Museum, you know, like another histories. I make a big 99 murals, also including the many the 文物 and yeah, like fake museum, museum. And yeah, I try like something very, yeah. But 我始终艺术家还是喜欢这种，就是这种崇拜这种很棒的这个 technique 的，因为我没那技术，我只能做 installation.
Last bit, he said, you know, as artists, I always admire those artists who have superb techniques like Shen Jiawei. And I don't have that, so that's why I ended up doing installations instead. Again, it's very humble answer. That's great. I have a few quick questions, and then you come up with the quick answers. This one is a personal question, and you can choose not to answer. Are you friends with each other? What do you like about each other's art? 关伟 first.
是我们是很好的朋友，但我们这朋友属于是那种君子淡如水的朋友，哎，是相互守望的。我很关注他做什么作品。
不是酒肉朋友
啊，对，不是那种酒肉朋友，对，因为我们很少在一起吃吃喝喝的，但在艺术上我很尊重他，很那个关注他，他做的东西我一直都是特别欣赏。因为我是搞当代，他是搞这种比较偏这个 classical 的，但是我就欣赏他的这种精神，是吧？而且他有很大的那种抱负和野心嘛，是吧？做那个特别超大型的那种，这也是我非常欣赏的啊。所以我觉得我们这个朋友应该是那种比较就是淡如水的那种朋友，但是对艺术上是非常关注的这样啊这种形式的啊。但是就这问题是吧？
Yes, we've been friends, but we're not drinking buddies. We are friends like having not always been together, but we really look out for each other. And also I very admire his work and his creation from a distance. We don't always get together, have a food and etc. And what I do is contemporary art, and I know Shen Jiawei involves more classic or historical, and also very ambitious. So to me, and I quite appreciate what he's been doing, and I think it's great that he has that spirit of carrying on doing this big ambitious work.
我们是30年的朋友了，我带来一个 evidence。
We are friends for 30 years, and this is the evidence.
This is the first exhibition, it's Chinese artists exhibition in Australia, I think. The curator is Mabel Lee. Okay. Archibald is your assistant. And so Guan Wei and me, we both, we knew each other at that time. And about that, but about the art, 我用中文。至于艺术呢，可能韩静不知道，艺术家聚会的时候彼此几乎不谈艺术。为什么呢？因为艺术家避免雷同，各有各的方向，所以就不谈。不过呢，我也可以说一句，我对关伟作为一个当代主义艺术家，至今仍以架上绘画作为他的基本创作载体，表示我深深的敬意。
Yes, we've been friends for 30 years, and but as you may not know that artists, when they meet, get together, they don't talk about art. They avoid duplicates, talking about the same things. So of course, Guan Wei is a contemporary artist, And what I admire most about him is till today he's still using easel to create his art, which I think it is most admirable. Okay, next question. Let me test how much you know about each other. 关老师, how many times has Shen Jianwei been the Archibald finalist?
I think 9 times.
Is that correct? No. So you don't know Shen Jianwei. Okay, you failed. And Shen 老师, how many solo exhibitions has Guan Wei held?
I'm very lucky. Just this morning I see from his interview, and he said he's 76.
Wow, that's cheating. That's cheating. Is that correct? 76.
that's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
Shen Jianwei won. Okay. And the next question, and would you like to swap with each other? If yes, why? And if not, why not? 关老师 first.
Yeah, of course. 我喜欢变成家卫，我能有那么好的技术，然后能挂教皇跟教皇握手，是吧？还能够画我们那漂亮的公主，那是我们塔斯马尼亚人，那是等于是吧？因为我是塔斯马尼亚塔斯马，所以我当然喜欢这样的。
I would like to swap to be Shen Jianwei because then I have a superb technique, and I shake hands with the Pope, and I can paint beautiful Princess Mary. Mary actually came from Tessie, where I came from. So yes, I would like to be Shen Jianwei. Now Shen Jianwei's turn.
我是很想跟关伟对调啊，可是呢，刘品会跳起来吼道：“什么？你太矮了！”
I would love to swap with Guan Wei, but I'm sure his wife Liu Ping would shout, "What? You are too short." Okay, and last question. The second last question, quick one. If you have to choose one city to live in, which one? Yes, is it? Guan Wei first.
London.
Okay.
Still Sydney.
Still Sydney. Guan Wei, you don't have loyalty to Australia.
Oh, London is Sydney's mother.
Okay, last question. Are you happy with what you have achieved, or do you have bigger ambitions? Which one? Who do you want? Who would you like to go first?
我的野心马上就要实现了，明年。
Yes, I do have a big ambition, and my big ambition is going to be realized next year. So we will wait and see.
我的野心是做到100个个展。
Oh, okay. My ambition is to hold 100 solo exhibitions. 23 to go.
Yeah, 23.
Okay, wow, congratulations. Thank you, Shen Jianwei. Thank you, Guan Wei, for your wonderful answers. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm sure you enjoy as much as I do. Lastly, we would like to congratulate and thank specifically the president of Australian Chinese New Arts Society, Mrs. Jenny Gu. And she has put so much work for this incredible achievement. And please, Jenny would like to give the closing remarks.
Good afternoon and welcome to our opening ceremony. I wish acknowledge we are meeting on the land of the Euro people, and I pay my respect to elders and past and present. I also wish to acknowledge and thank you, Chris Min, for attendance today, for his encourage and lending the staff to help us, of course, for opening exhibition today as well. I do wish to acknowledge Mr. Jeff Robbie to thank you for his participation today. And this exhibition will not have without the financial support from the New South Wales government and the government agency, for which we have a grateful. I know my speech is a bit of the for the order thank you, but however, I need to mention some people without they are, we wouldn't have that successful for today. Guan Wei, the curator, is the exhibition, for the curator of the exhibition. I wish to thank you for his support, enforce, and encourage. not just for today. He support our ongoing our society's work as well. And Professor Jing Han is also a great support for this exhibition, and I thank you for being our MC today. And also, I'd like to acknowledge our consultants for our Days in Australia project, Dr. Yu Huaihe and Dr. Guan Wei, and also Ying Xia for their input and support. Of course, I must thank you all our Australia Chinese New Arts Society members, especially our Vice President Jimmy Chen and Richard Tao, along with our Chief Editor Pei Liang Tang. Our other guests are welcome, and thank you for your attendance today. As you all be aware, this exhibition is called Too Brew to be True. The reason to give it is such as a little of the true brew, obviously related to Australia society, and the generous is my generation have gone with to become part of our adopted country. Not only does it reflect the moments of the many Hebrew when arrived to Australia, of the how blue and how beautiful the sky was, but it was also that is a distance of the blue horizon. We look at not knowing that was the new country would come to the means to our and how it's potentially and a promise to its offer to us. The exhibition will explore this blue horizon opportunity, which offers including gay and exclusive raising a family and running a business. It also reflecting the realism of the learning as we are dependent on our own hard work and the resource to make a life here. Added to the diversity and the culture of the multicultural Australia, with our families still in China, we grow as a person, grow our network of a friend, and made a life in Australia.